Hello and welcome. We thought it will be a different script altogether. We thought it will be a day to celebrate. We thought it will be a night to remember and make it a memorable thing, but it was not to be. It was not to be for Indian fans who were not only in the stadium but who are awake across the world to see, watch, enjoy, experience the night that we celebrated on 2011 when Mahendra Singh Dhoni hit that fantastic six over mid-on, and Ravi Shastri in his rich baritone said the iconic historic line. But I'm going to read out what my brilliant team, who's been working with us for several months, weeks rather, have put together. Australia has won the Cricket World Cup 2023, beating India by 6 wickets. It started with a cameo from Rohit, but Australians pacers got the best of Indian batters, restricting them to just 240. As for India, it wasn't the terrible World Cup, but one that the country should be proud of. Yes, there is a lot to improve, and there will always be a lot to improve, especially in other factors other than the playing cricket. You need luck. But it's time to stick with our men in blue. Well, it's a great moment, but I join in this historic day with 3, 4 or 5 of my wonderful friends who've been with me throughout this long, arduous, passionate journey, not only from India, but other parts of the world. You had a South African, a Zimbabwean player, and host of other international colleagues from Australia, England, Iceland, South Africa, most of the places where I don't even remember at this point. Yes, it is a time and a moment to stand, to rejoice till the semi-final or till the first innings how Indians played. Well, joining me today in this live discussion, live from the studio, we have Tasmeen Granger, the lady who has played for Zimbabwe for 15 years. More importantly, for the last 45 days, she's been here, leaving her family in Bulawayo, just to work with us and see the growth of Indian World Cup and the India's performance in the World Cup. Well, also joining me is a man who needs no introduction. He's the guy who raises his finger, and he's been raising his finger as an umpire, as an elite umpire for the last 2 decades. He's well known, he's well respected, he's played the game, and to my mind, he's the best servant of the game. Anil Chaudhary, the umpire. People call him the slow death. Yes, this is the reason why. Earlier since morning, we've discussed many things. I'm also joined by a man who I hugely respect when I saw him play at the Ranji status for Hyderabad. And he was one of the most electrifying fielder before fielding was in vogue. Noel David, who joins us from Hyderabad, and he's here to discuss and talk about more things than answer more things and the fan questions. In fact, we're left with more questions than answers that we were seeking. Well, Tasmeen, just describe the pre-toss moment for us, how jubilant we were and how brilliant we were then.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I feel like a lot of Indian fans and supporters around the country, maybe even just around the world, we're feeling super confident about this today. Fact that as well, they're coming off a completely unbeaten run leading up to this final. I think, everyone was already in strong belief that it was definitely in their court. And, it's cricket. This is what cricket does at the end of the day. It'll humble you, it'll make you, it'll break you, and it can do all these things to you. I'm pretty sure as well that after the toss as well, people were even more confident at the fact that Australia went ahead and chose to bowl. We do know, yes, India may be the run chase champions at this point in time, but what was the thinking behind Australia? We're just going to call it the dew. It's been a big contributing factor as well throughout this entire match, and we've been talking about it all evening in studios as well, to say that it's going to play a big part in it. It may not have been as much as we anticipated, but it definitely played a certain role to a certain extent. I'm just with all the Indian fans. I can just imagine what's going through people's hearts and minds right now as well. And it's been an incredible World Cup. I feel like India should still walk away with their heads held up high because they've had a great campaign as well. Just probably a few decisions here and there for me as well. And we've been talking about the brilliance of Pat Cummins' decisions and the choices he's made. Couple of strategic changes, be it with the bat or with the ball. And he's just managed to come out on top as the more experienced captain today for me.
Well, that was a brilliant, straight from the heart, no scripts here. It's pure and pure from the heart. Well, I'm joined by David Brooks. David, what do you make of the entire episode and the journey that we've had in the last 6 weeks? It's been absolute highs and one blip that has got us down. Your views?
Well, one continual high for me has been appearing with you and Tasmin and the team. It's been fantastic to be part of the NewsX coverage and all the streaming that's been going on Indian Sports Fan too. It's been a wonderful tournament and a great advertisement for 50 over cricket in a world that had become almost too dominated, I think, by one form of the game. And cricket is a game that can be played across multiple formats and ideally a game that lasts a whole day. That's what fans want to see. They don't want to see or play in a game that only lasts 2 or 3 hours. Well, it's fine after work, but when you've got the whole day to watch, let's watch a 50 over match. And this competition has been a great advertisement for ODI cricket. Yes, for Indian fans must be very disappointing. If I was being critical, and I can only back up what Tasmin said about captaincy of Pat Cummins, but if I was being critical, I would say that Rohit Sharma maybe lacked a little bit of the intensity that we would have seen from a Virat Kohli captaincy. I'd like to have seen more determination, more intensity from him. Even a bit of anger would have been helpful. You just imagine what Virat Kohli would have been screaming about during this match. Because there were some key moments where India had the opportunity to assert themselves. And the captain's got to look at his own dismissal. You've got to look at some of the decisions that were made there. And, well, we knew going into this match that not 10 wins in a row, no team's ever won the World Cup without losing a match. And India chose the final to end their winning streak. It's been a fantastic winning streak. And the two players that dominated the competition for me are both from India, Virat Kohli with the bat and Mohammad Shami with the ball. But all credit to Australia. What a year they've had. Look at it, pull back a second, not just the World Cup. They won the Ashes and also won the World Test Match Championship as well, beating India earlier this summer. So it's been an amazing year. And given that Pat Cummins is actually only a recently appointed captain and a very different style of captain to the usual snarling, Australian captain that we see. I mean, Pat Cummins looks like the sort of guy that you'd want your daughter to marry. You'd want her to bring someone home like Pat Cummins. And there's a number of very likable, I won't say this in front of Paul Denner, who's been my sparring partner, but there's a number of very likable Australians in this team. Of course, David Warner aside. And one of the most likable, Marnus Labuschagne, in an emotional post-match interview just now, talked about his faith in God and how he had no idea how he was going to be playing in this match. Even last night, 10:30 at night, he didn't know if his name was going to be on the team sheet. And to be part of that was quite astonishing for him. So I'm very pleased for Marnus Labuschagne. When we look back on the highlight of the whole World Cup, we'll probably think about that wonderful innings from Glenn Maxwell. And nice to see him in this starting lineup too. So all in all, I think tremendous World Cup, tremendous journey. And it's really, I think, going to set up cricket for a golden age ahead of us. I can't wait for India's tour to South Africa. India playing, I think, some T20s before that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how England get out of the hole. Because losing a final is one thing. Propping up the table and losing 6 or 7 matches is quite another. And I'm looking forward to seeing how England dust themselves down on their forthcoming trip to the West Indies. So I think this tournament has actually imbued the whole of cricket with a shot of adrenaline, and that will benefit all the bilateral series, even though as we speak, some administrators are trying to cut back 50 over game. that sort of drama that we saw today, in a comparatively low-scoring match, would never be seen in any other form of cricket. We must keep ODI cricket alive and well, and this channel has done more than any to highlight that. So thank you for you, Sunil, for the masterful way in which you've coordinated proceedings.
Well, that was David Brooks, emotional with David Brooks with his baritone. Of course, I'm going to go on to Noel David. Noel, how does it feel to see India lose the way they did? And especially as a fan, and more so as a senior member, coach, and also a former player. How deep is the cut? How deep is the cut?
It's too deep because, what we expected, it never went around. The joyful ride ended in a sad note, especially in the finals after 10 straight victories. You come into the finals thinking that, it'll be 11 out of 11, but unfortunately, everyone says, the law of cricket or this thing, it just turned around against us. But yeah, let's not take away the credit from the Australians. They played their cricket very hard. After the 2 losses, they came back very hard against each opponent, especially the match against the Afghanistan, where Maxwell played a brilliant knock. Otherwise, I think things would have been different for the Aussies. But, each and everyone contributed for the Australian team. Not to take the credit away again from our side, from the Indian. It's sad to see them walk away like this from the ground with a sad face, with heads down. But I think they should have the heads up, as David Brooks said. They lost nothing. They lost a World Cup, I know, but they have played the cricket they were wanted. They executed their plans well. They fought like a team in every game. Rohit led the side brilliantly. Virat Kohli, breaking records after records. Shami made a comeback, got a chance. He created history. He was a revolution in the bowling side. We all expected Siraj to, come good after the Asia Cup, but unfortunately, he had a low World Cup. Burma was extraordinary, but unfortunately, again, he couldn't be a bang like Shami. Jadeja, Kuldeep was a revolution again. I think this young lad we'll see in the future as the star spinner for India, and along with Jadeja. But I feel overall India has stood very high with a lot of things in their pocket. They have executed what they wanted. What I feel like a coach, I think I'm happy with the team, the way they played the cricket. I'm happy for each and every individual who gave the sweat, the blood out there on the ground till the last day. And still, we should have a heads high and say, yes, we done our job, but unfortunately today was not our day.
Noel David, former India cricketer, I'm sure you don't have a script for it. It came straight from the heart. Don't go anywhere. We have a long discussion right now, and like 2 clinical professors, folk professors working here, we want to look at the ways and reasons why this happened. I'll throw on to Tasmin Granger just for understanding and for posterity, just to know what was the reason or what were the reasons that India could not manage to cross the line despite playing those 10 beautiful, fantastic, historic. What else? Your views, Tasmin.
Yeah, I think, we did talk a bit about the big match temperament. For me, I feel like this was a big contributing factor.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that, we did, at our innings break, say that they are shy of about 30 to 40 runs. This game coming and just ending round about the 47th over. I believe maybe 30 more runs on the board. They could have definitely found themselves on a better side of this chase as well, and maybe a bit more pressure as well on Australia. If you look at the way Marius Labuschagne played, I think he would have been a bit under more pressure to play more shots had there been a bit more runs on the board as well. But take nothing away from the stand that him and Travis Head put on together. They scored an entire total partnership. That was definitely the nail in the coffin for India tonight. And I want to just tell you a bit about the big match temperament. This is just simply the team that is able to function under pressure. They simply thrive on the pressure. You look at the game that Australia had against South Africa, they nearly lost the game. If not for South Africa putting down too many catches, they wouldn't have found themselves in this position. It was an easy chase for them, and they sort of just switch down into an easy gear as well and take the chase casually. But when the pressure's on them, they're very good at soaking it up, and I believe that's where Marius Labuschagne played a key role today for Australia. He managed to soak up the pressure, which in turn gave Travis Head the opportunity to be able to play his natural shots. Here and there, we still seen him, looking, punching down the ground, but he continued to hit the ball hard. Never once did he stop to take a break and look like he was going to change his gameplay. If it was in the slot, it was gone. That was still simply Travis's Head game, and the only reason why he was able to do this was because Marius Labuschagne managed to absorb the pressure from him. You look at the amount of runs he scored a total of 66 runs off 107 balls. The point in time when you have a guy in your squad, especially on a chase like this, that's not required of everybody to be going hard, you need that person that's okay with facing the dart balls and won't cave to the pressure of having faced that many dart balls. So personally for me, I believe it was just the entire mindset, the temperament behind it as well, of which Australia addressed the chase. Yes, we had a comment earlier on in the innings, at the innings break, to say that if Australia approached this in the form of looking to play it in a test match sort of format, pace themselves through their innings, not entirely look to go big from the start off the way they've been going all World Cup, then they definitely stand a higher chance. And that's something for me, Marius Labuschagne actually came out and did well enough for them.
Well, very interesting point you made. In fact, you've summed up everything so eloquently that I think we need to now put points and fingers on our pulse where things actually went wrong. Well, without further delay, I'd like to get in Anil Chaudhary, the man who's been saying from the toss why Australia took that decision of going into field instead of bat. And Anilji, what is your understanding of the entire situation and how bad is it? First of all, as fans, you're a fan first. You've officiated in 30 years on various levels.
That fan thing will not apply on me.
Yes.
But yes, generally the Indians are not happy. We are also getting a lot of feedback, and not an ideal scenario for them, because the way they played the tournament, it was almost outstanding, except today. They were leading the show. The other teams were not even close. And as I said earlier, winning the toss and elected to field was a good planning, and the executive, they had a plan. Maybe they assessed the situation and atmosphere and the pitch, other heat and dryness of the atmosphere. They were well prepared. They executed and it worked for them. But again, we should give credit to Australian first, because they had a plan. They followed that, and I still remember that game which they won against Afghanistan.
Yes.
People talk about fortune, luck and all. I think that was a hint that something is going to be different, because they were nowhere in that game and Maxwell changed everything. So that was a hint. That was a, I would say, that was a scary moment for other teams where fortune changed for them, and you can see the result today. Again, law of average, lot of things in cricket we talk due also. We can't ignore them. India started very well. They took 3 wickets and they were almost 40 for 3. Then maybe one or two wickets there could have changed the entire game. But again, they batted well and they did a lot of conventional batting. They were not looking for creating shots, maybe because they knew the target. But at the same time, as she said, playing like a multi-day game and playing on merit, or not going beyond their plan. They never played any shot which is like risky. So they executed well, and we should congratulate both the teams. India for outstanding performance till today, before like this all happened. Dew also played some part, and champions are champions. You can't find reasons to ignore their performance. They have done well. That's why they are here. We said initially on other channel, on Hindi channel, that winning 10 games or 8 games not a major difference. Almost there. They were almost at par. But I'm slightly surprised, because I was personally looking for an interesting game, and that's why I said when you asked who will win, I said umpire's call, but it was clearly missing for today.
Absolutely.
So I raised my hand for that. So we were looking for a good game. Initially, the way they started after 3 wickets, we were like, oh, something will happen, it will be a tight finish. But after that, that partnership, was very good, and they totally outplayed India today, especially when they were chasing.
David, well, I'd like to thank, I don't know how to thank Anil Chaudhary for this wonderful summation from an umpire's perspective. And remember, he's the umpire who's worked at the top level for over a decade, and he's done India proud by becoming one of the most elite umpires that India has ever produced. David Brooks, you're the honorary Indian citizen. Now tell us, we are more emotional than many. How would you feel for this loss? What is the closest that comes to your mind, of course, at this loss, playing so good, flawless cricket in all departments for over 6 weeks, and suddenly squandering this opportunity, and the better team won, of course. Your views?
Yes, the better team won. It's ridiculous to see it as a loss of anything other than one cricket match. The gains are far superior to the losses. The progress that India have shown in this tournament, the way in which they won those 10 matches on a run. Every winning run has to come to an end at some point. As the great Winston Churchill said, this too must pass. Everything has to come to an end. And I don't think sadness, loss, these sort of words, there's no death. We're not grieving. India can hold their heads up. They've had a wonderful tournament and they've come unstuck today. Now, the time and place for post-mortem on that, I don't have much to add to that wonderful summation by Mr. Chowdhury. And also the words spoken by our own Tasmin. You know, I am a big student of stats and data myself, but I find the way that Tasmin highlights these stats with her own insights from playing the game at a high level, you know, has made it really interesting for me to be part of the team that's brought you know, this coverage. And I think I can only celebrate the fact cricket is the winner here. Yes, Australia have won. A lot of people were saying that. My colleague, Mr. Bennett Oleg from Sri Lanka, said it last night. He said, India may be unconquered and unblemished, but they're also untested. He said that on your program, Sunil. And he said in particular, the lower order is untested. Yes, of course, that's one of the problems when you've been winning games so convincingly. And you really can't blame anyone for that. You can't say, oh, India shouldn't have won those games so convincingly in the first 10. Look, people will be picking over the corpse. But there are no corpses. There are no dead bodies. Cricket is the winner. India have been part of a thrilling final, and they've played their part by setting the pace. And Australia are the most unlikely of winners because they really have come back from the dead. I mean, you could say that their hopes were in tatters after the first 3 matches of the competition, yet still they managed to find a way to win every single match. And rather than pick over what went wrong, I think it's more constructive and more entertaining for everyone to focus on what Australia did right. And, you know, because Cummins, he got his field placings right for every bowler. He got the bowlers right for every batter. Look at the way they bowled to Sky at the end of the innings. They knew he wanted pace on the ball. They knew he likes to hit it behind the wicket in that shot. So what do? They had a very straight third, and they took pace off the ball. They outthought him. And maybe, you know, Sky could play more long-form cricket and know how to get round those moments when it's not enough to just stand there and smash the ball, you know, which is an important quality in T20 cricket. But we've seen that this great game of cricket requires a whole variety of other skills as well. And, you know, it's not enough just England have got a player, Liam Livingstone, and I asked him, how did you prepare for the World Cup? And he said, I've been in the gym for 3 months bulking up, and I've been practicing range hitting. Great, well that stood him in good stead, didn't it? He never scored above 20 in the whole competition, because there's no point range hitting if you can't hit the ball. And a moving ball, and the way that some of the Australians bowled today, you know, and the way that India have bowled throughout the competition, and Shami being the leading bowler, you know, the achievements of Virat Kohli in this competition. He deserves to be a winner. And I would be controversial at this point and say that if he'd been captain, India would have won that. I noticed in Sharma's captaincy, too laid back, not enough fight, not enough intensity. yes, maybe some anger would have been good. Just didn't see enough from Sharma in those circumstances. And as Roland Butcher was saying earlier, every phase, you need different type of leadership. And Kohli, when he was leader, India needed that shot up the arm. And I think they could have done with his leadership skills today, not stirring the pot too much because he's settled into a very good role as senior professional. But I think that type of intensity and determination and never say die attitude would have been useful if the captain had displayed more of that today. But that's my only point of criticism on what has been a wonderful performance from India in this tournament. Please, there's a time for tears. They really are not now. It's been a truly memorable tournament, and it takes two teams to have made a very memorable final.
Well, very interesting you would say that, David Brooks, and I didn't interrupt you because it is all unscripted, straight from the heart, and I wish Bennett would join us, and only you can get him in this show right now because he was the first one to put his hand up and say, hey, despite the unblemished record India can still be conquered and will be conquered because they have not been tested. Testing is an important thing, but you said there is a time for tear. Noel, how difficult is it to explain it to your honorary Indian citizen from London that Indian fans will either not eat their meal? Just tell him how are you coping with it, of course, and explain him the ordeal of being a fan that has lost the semi-final in 2015, well, in fact, or seen the 2003 same repeat happening. Of course, the butcher that time was Ponting, Gilchrist, Hayden, and the script stopped there. Your views, Noel David. Explain it to him, what it means to an Indian, what a loss is.
I think my face says it all, David Brooks. It's sad, here in India, especially the fans are very emotional, and especially with the Indian cricket team, the fans follow the players everywhere they go. They give their heart out to each individual. If you see the fan following Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, it's huge. So I don't think that any of these fans have digested anything. If India would have won this, by now you could have heard the crackers bursting out there in the sky, but unfortunately it is not, because I think each fan is depressed. They must have having tears in the eyes. Everything must be going around, and criticism must have started among themselves itself. Ifs and buts must have come in play, saying if Rohit should have done this or Virat Kohli should have done that. So all this will be playing in their minds, and talks will be coming out on all this. But cricket, as you said, Brooks, that cricket is the win, and I strongly believe in that. Because ultimately it is a game of cricket. Anyone can win on his day. Ultimately there's one winner and there's one loser. So I believe very strongly that the Australians have played the cricket very hard. Not to say that India has not. India's outplayed it also very hard till today. But unfortunately today was not the day as it was in 2019, where Dhoni got run out, and in 2003, where Mr. Ricky Ponting took the game away from us.
Well, we've got someone who keeps a straight face and doesn't keep emotions on the hand, and just is completely cold, poker-faced gentleman in the discussion. Mr. Anil Chaudhary, sir, how do you manage to be so emotionless? Is it because of the job? And you've got to talk to our fans out there looking into the camera and tell them how to be.
You're testing me again and again. But maybe I'm in a profession where for me, just a game. The team which play better is winner. But we always look like for good competitive game. I think the second part was not there. And personally, I said should be a close game, but I don't know. Maybe they were bowling at some other line which not suited in these conditions, because first inning was slightly different and second inning,
yes,
as I said, ball also
Yes.
Not,
We'll
not,
come to that.
Not too much, but yes, some percentage. And all these small things add up to big difference. And Australia clear winner in all the departments today. Fielding also, remember, they did everything correct today, and they deserve to win.
Absolutely, they deserve to win. But you still have.
Can
Yeah, go
I
on.
add something to Anil?
Absolutely.
You know, he's an umpire who's very firm in his decision. He's very strict. That's why he doesn't give a smile at all. So Anil bhai, you should also smile with us, please.
I smile a lot actually. I get sometime message from others, hey, you are enjoying or you are umpiring. I smile a lot. Smile is a good tool to handle match management issues. You're right. But yes, not every time. You're giving leg before and smiling, people will kill me.
Well, that's the dash of humor we were expecting in our show. But coming back, I mean, as fans, because India is a country of fans and Indians are very full of emotions. Noel, are you having your meal? Are you having your dinner tonight?
You know what? When it was 43-3, I started to have my dinner, expecting, it will be a collapse. But I think it's not digested now because after that, with the way Travis had played, single-handedly took the game away from the Indian, along with the, Lumberjack. Because it's so sad to see that we never stuck to the plan what David Brooke was saying.
Absolutely.
The fighting spirit, or it was lacking, and it's a matter of it does happen because at that moment you don't know what to do when things are going not your way. I think Rohit was thinking too much to how to break this partnership, for which he was not agile, or maybe that anger or process never came out. But things does happen, and it has happened in a wrong way for the India.
Absolutely, wrong way for sure, and in succession, year after year or session after session for India, especially in the ICC. The trophy has been very elusive for India for several years right now. Could it be a decade as well? But I've got to ask now, we've had our emotional bit, now it's time to ask the technical part. And who better than the umpire himself, who's been saying, and he's caught the point early, like Bennett, who said that India has a very vulnerable middle order and the lower order. Umpire Anil Chaudhary said that India has huge problem when they come in and they back the field as the due. Just explain our viewers about the due part with the ball, Anil.
I think as a player, when you hold a normal dry ball, you can grip it.
Yep.
Yes.
You can, you can bowl to your plan. But when it is slippery, okay, they use water, like they use towel and everything, but still it is difficult to hold the seam.
Right.
Now dry and try this. You use your hanky or whatever it is, it will not be a normal grip.
No, definitely not. Definitely. I agree with you, 110%. A lot of the times I've played in a few places, especially like down in Potchefstroom in South Africa.
Yes.
And the dew does come in the early morning as well.
Yes.
And personally, as a spin bowler as well, we rely on the seam. The fact that this is a new ball, maybe you'd still be able to hold on to it. But as the ball wears over during the day, not only is the stitching on the seam getting slippery because of the water, but as well as the actual seam will tend to pop out as well. And that's not the easiest thing to hold on to as well. Whether you want to try and get some revs on it, I'd say most of the time, 70% of the time, you'd find spinners are now hitting it with the slides on it, and they're getting more skid on it than anything else, than actually being able to grip and turn it and get some revs on the ball.
I've seen a lot of scenarios where people using towel, still it is wet. We have changed the ball also. But maybe after few deliveries, again, the back to
You're
again,
going to hold it up for the camera. So
wet
that people
seam
can,
and this thread.
Just hold it on.
You can see this thread.
Yeah.
If it is wet, you keep drying it. Still, it will remain same. You change the ball after a few hours. Again, it will be same. Catching and like after pitching also, because of that dew thing, it will be like cemented pitch most of the time. So you need a lot of luck to get wicket after that. Maybe seamers can use for a while, but not on regular basis. So it was easier for second batting team when dew comes in this, and I'm not taking credit out of Australians because they had a lot of other plus also, but this was also one of the major points. That's why initially when everyone was talking about why they choose to field first, this was the reason. This was the major reason. They took fielding because of this.
Absolutely. Now
otherwise, in a pressure game, everyone likes to bat first.
Absolutely. Now we know for a fact that why the revs didn't come. In fact, we were talking about the spin, the track, the soil, the revs. Now you want to explain to our fans what revs mean so that we can go on to our next topic, which is the due factor again and how it was difficult for Kuldeep and Jadeja.
So definitely the revs is basically how well you can grip it and actually get it to keep turning and hold the seam straight up in one certain position. So in the likes of Jadeja, he's a left armer. Ideally, he's bowling the ball, hitting the ground, turning away from the right-handers. Most of the time, that's his stock delivery.
Right.
But now when he can't exactly grip it for one and get it to come out of his fingers with the consistency to keep the seam facing away, you find a lot of the times the seam starts flipping over and over and over. Hence the reason why it's no longer turning anymore.
Well, exactly. And that's where you had Ravindra Jadeja and Kuldeep Yadav as your two strike bowlers. When you have strike bowlers and when you have attacking bowlers, this is where you expect them to take wickets. This is where you expect them to make the life miserable for the team. This is what you make difficult for the opponents and also get wickets, wrap up the match, what they have been doing consistently against Australia, especially Ravindra Jadeja. But that's for another day. The dew was the factor. And Noel David, when you have the revs and when you have a problem, does it only have a problem with the spinners or even the medium pacers and the fast bowlers have a problem throwing it to the right length?
I think, as Anil Bhai correctly said, the problem goes to spinners mostly to hold the ball or grip the ball. And as she said, the reps doesn't come in play. If you don't get the reps going over the ball, then there'll be no turn and bounce at all. It'll just come out straight and goes on straight where it becomes easy for the batsman. And for the medium pacers, yes, it may help in skidding a bit, but it will come nicely on the back. And that is very nice for the batsman to get onto the front foot and play the ball. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time we find it very difficult. As a spinner myself, when there's a lot of dew, I can't hold the ball. Whatever I do, I put dust on my hand, or if I use the handkerchief or towel, whatever you do, the ball doesn't grip because of the seam which is around the ball. It starts slipping out of your hand all the time, whether you cross it across the seam or you cross it, try and catch it on the plain side, nothing is going to work because the ball tends to slip out of your fingers. Because if you're a finger spinner like Jadeja and if you're a wrist spinner like Kuldeep, it is quite difficult to hold the ball all the time.
Well, that's an interesting assessment of the entire situation and telling our fans exactly what it is. David Brooks, you've been at the other end of the misery for far too long, especially the way England has been playing this World Cup. Now, it's time for us to reflect on the good memories of Indian players that they have stood for, they've delivered, and they've played out of their skin and produced the most memorable moments. What are the 2-3 memorable moments that you think of the Indian players so that we can quickly go around and ask them, including Anil Chaudhary, who doesn't give any secrets, who doesn't let his emotions go. But we'll try and probe him again and ask for referrals. Go on, we start off with you.
Two particular moments spring out for me. As I say, this is no time for sadness or recriminations. I can understand people being emotional, but it's been a brilliant winning run from India. Two highlights for me would be Virat Kohli equaling and then breaking the record held by Sachin Tendulkar. We waited months, was it years, for Sachin Tendulkar to get his hundreds. We didn't have to wait too long for Virat Kohli to overtake Sachin's ODI record. And two wonderful centuries from Kohli, and he passed 57 times in this competition. Who could ask for much more than that? Another highlight for me, the bowling of Mohammad Shami. Okay, 3 fifers, I picked that 7 wickets in the semis. But equally, I could have picked the 2 5-wicket hauls as well. You know, Shami has been absolutely superb. I think those would be the 2 standout moments. I'm going to give my 3rd standout moment. I hope you don't mind, Sunil. You're a generous man. To in Australia, to the innings of Glenn Maxwell. You know, because I would ask all Indians to reflect on the fact that you made it to the final. That 2 of the best teams in the world met in that final, who have been head and shoulders above everyone else. Because Australia were head and shoulders above South Africa in the way they played that semi-final. They outfought them, outplayed them. So let's say there's a big gap between India and Australia and everyone else. And I think that's good for the game. I think it's good for the game India didn't quite make it.
That's it.
Because one victory after another, you know, where's the enjoyment in that? It's like Australia in the 70s and 80s. You always knew what was going to happen in the end. But cricket is a game of glorious uncertainties. And take away that uncertainty, you have predictable games. We didn't see any games that were predictable. Today wasn't predictable.
Right.
And India's taken over as the centre of world cricket. The power is with India now. But with that power also comes responsibility to look after the other cricketing nations to ensure that we do have not just 2 competitive teams, but 10 competitive teams, maybe 14. India won those games so convincingly that they didn't have to test their own side out. And finally, they had to test. Now, is that in the interest of cricket? I hope that India plays its part in helping everyone else to develop their game. And the partnership, though, between Rohit Sharma and the coach, Dhoni, the coach, Rahul Dravid, I was doing so well up to that point. The ghost of Dhoni was haunting me there.
Absolutely. Anyways, we are trying to... David, we are trying to find grieving management quotes from you because England has lost miserably and India has lost the biggest consequential game, but that's another time. We'll go to Tasneem. Tasneem, what are the 2 good things about Indian which you'll go back with when you do that tomorrow? What are the 2 memories of Indian performance on the field at this World Cup?
You know, before I just tell you how great India's been for me for this tournament, I'm just reminded of a moment that you brought up a certain final in Manchester in 2019. So before you just go around and keep asking all of us, I just want to find out from you, you know, you were there in Manchester as well in 2019, and I just want to know how it's feeling for you as well. 2nd time around, you find yourself in this position, and I'm definitely going to tell you about all the great things I've found with India as well.
Well, it's like a one bad dream. I don't know where you managed to script this or get it out, but it was one bad dream that has followed us this year as well, after 4 years. It seems like a leap year bad dream that has been recurring every 4 years. But yeah, I can tell you the 2nd day of the semi-final, if you remember, it was a rain washed out thing the next day. It was like an Indian party happening there early in the morning. We all reached there, be there. And when we see Dhoni's run out, I think that was the time our heart skipped a beat. We stopped, we were numb, we didn't know what was happening. The fans at that point of time were we had a bevy of few fans, very well-known fans who are still with us and do that. But I can tell you, I remember vividly, tears rolling down my eyes that point of time, hands up in the sky, and we were numb. And we sat there for over 2 hours till the security actually threw us out. I mean, all Indians who were in disbelief how India could lose a match of 17 runs. And I mean, that was one bad dream we thought would never occur again. But here we are, 2013, 23.
Now I'm going to make your heart a bit happy and tell you about all the great things, let me tell you, of India, this tournament for me. You know, aside from personally, you know, they set a big standard bar mark, them alongside, you know, South Africa and everyone. We have an entirely new template for the 50-over game format, where we've gone from a situation of 280 to 300 being a great score to looking at 300s as the new norm. As well as this, for me, you know, I've been commenting over and over and over again that once you find yourself in a team that has one solid 100-run partnership and a couple of 250-run plus partnerships building around it, you're well on your way to the score. I think proper key moments for me, big moments for me, is just, the Mohammad Shami for me, he was never part of the Indian plans. He may have been that guy that would have sat on the bench had it not been for the injury of Hardik Pandya. But he's, for me, been the basic example, the biggest example for kids out there that probably find themselves feeling like they're good enough, but not entirely getting the opportunity to just stay prepared. He is the ultimate for me that shows what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You get Mohammad Shami for me this World Cup, because he simply stepped up to the plate, and from there they had the hardest time ever trying to get him back on the bench. He just fired. If you look at the wickets he's taken this entire tournament, he's done it in half the amount of overs that anybody in this tournament has actually done it in for me. So I'm definitely going to put Mohammad Shami up there for me. I take nothing away. There has to be a Virat Kohli on your list if you're talking about India and things that they've done great. But as well as, you have those kids in your team that are big hitters, and they get to a certain stage in their game or a certain stage in their career, and they're told, okay, you need to change your game a bit. You need to look to go deeper. You need to look at Rohit Sharma for me this tournament. He's been spectacular. He's been up there, probably the most sixes throughout this entire tournament as well, in this format as well, in a long time that it's been done. We watched him break the record of Chris Gayle as well along the way as well. So the Indian team for me has been nothing short of showing future cricketers out there that it's okay to trust your natural game. It's okay to just be yourself. And regardless of how many other people you have around you telling you all the different things as well, it's good for you to be sure about your own game and just back yourself up.
Well, absolutely. Isn't that a Cinderella man kind of a story where this guy goes back in the ring and tries to make a resurrection for that, but we wait for that resurrection probably in 2024 or maybe in 2027 when we go back again for a 50-over World Cup, if the powers that be allow the ODI status to run and compete in the same manner. Well, I would like to ask Noel David. Noel, what are your two moments before I come to the umpire and then sadly say goodbye to this wonderful 45 days of non-stop coverage of cricket, stats, analysis, heart, soul, numbers, everything put into it. Your views?
And people behind the curtains, especially for the Indian cricket, thus Rahul and his team, who had worked since 3 years to get this side working along together. They have put in a lot of hard work, searching for players to make the best 15, along with BCCI and NCA. They had the 50 players at first.
Yes.
They grouped them up. They gave them the roles to play.
Yes.
Then they shortlisted to 30.
Yes.
They brought in to 30, and they shortlisted it to 30. And then after that, they looked into the great 15-member team.
Yes.
And finally, Rahul succeeded in doing it. That's why the results today has proven that this 15 were the best 15 what India could have at this moment. I think the man behind it is Rahul. We should all appreciate the coach who's going to leave us now at present, because what the news is saying, I don't know whether it's true that, he's going to put down the papers. But unfortunately, he's done a great, role behind the success for the Indian team, behind the curtains, along with Rathore, the fielding coach himself, Dilip, and everyone worked together. We should also appreciate. The second thing what I found is Rohit Sharma himself as the captain. He has been a revolution as a captain. Yes, his aggressiveness never showed a bit in the finals, but he is the man who changed the attitude of the team. If you remember Dinesh Karthik quoting recently saying that after the loss in 2022, I think the T20 World Cup, he said, Rohit Sharma came up to him and said, we have to do something new to get the side going. We have to change something. We have to change the attitude of players. And that's what he has done. And this has shown the result of each individual out there in the Indian team. The third thing is Virat Kohli. Kohli has been always a man who stood his ground for the country. He is passionate. His passion showed it. His willingness, his hard work, his fitness level, so high. A man who never thinks about record, only thinks about his country. Today, we are all proud that we have a king in the team. after the god who retired from cricket. Today, we have the king who can pursue and make someone the prince and leave behind the prince for us so that he can go on to break the king's record. Let this trend continue, someone breaking each one's record. That will be great for Indian cricket. The Indian cricket has grown strength by strength past these 4 years with the level, with the standard what we have, with BCCI encouraging all domestic cricket, everything coming up in the right way. I think Anil will agree. Him standing in domestic cricket, we can find some talented cricketers coming up in this country. NCA has come a long way in supporting these youngsters, giving them the foundation, giving them the help. I think hats off should go to them also. VVS Lakshman, the director. I think everyone has contributed to this Indian cricket, to the success of Indian cricket as well. And hopefully we will find more Virat Kohlis, more Shubham Gill, more of Rohit Sharma in the near future, along with Shami. I know Shami has been a revolution. He had his life ups and downs after his personal problems. He had injuries. He went through hell, but he stood his ground. He has come back so tremendously. He got an opportunity, blessing in disguise. Poor Hardik Pandya, my heart goes out to him also because he is a fighter too. We missed him, but unfortunately, he was not there today. But Shami, Mohammad Shami has equaled his performance by taking 23 wickets. He stood out for Hardik Pandya. He took his place, not in the batting side, but his bowling side. He's been a revolution. Everyone has contributed. Unfortunately, today we are on the other part of the side of the stand. Yes, it does happen. This is a game of cricket. Cricket, the best who has played has won it. So hats off to the Indian team, hats off to the Australian team. And I say, thank you very much, News India, for giving me an opportunity to be in the panel of some such elite people out there who have been with me for this past 3 weeks or to the 20 days. Thank you, Sunil, for giving an opportunity.
We are not done yet. We are not done.
Yes.
We are not done yet. Till the time we have the famous umpire with a slow death.
Yeah, and one more thing. David has been a keen follower, and I like it the way he says things.
Oh, thank you very much, Noel. Thank you.
Noel, you've been a revelation yourself. I think this is your debut on television at such a long stretch, giving your views as an expert. So I think NewsX and ITV also takes the credit of grooming cricket experts in that manner. Well, we also have today, for the very first time, Anil Chaudhary as an expert commentator, as an expert analyst of the game, and believe me, the insights that he gave us today were completely mind-blowing. I think that part of cricket we rarely get to hear, let alone understand. So thank you, Anil Chaudhary. But now the question for you, 2 things that really stood out for India, and also no, I think we're running short of time. 2 things that stand out. I think we'll stick to that.
Quickly, of course, Virat Kohli and Mohammad Shami.
Yes.
And KL Rahul chipping in with good batting and keeping. Very aggressive batting by Rohit Sharma, which is a very good sign for limited over game.
That's correct.
This is India. Next thing, which is very good sign for world cricket, the cricket played by Afghanistan. And magical inning played by Maxwell, which changed the entire tournament. Otherwise, Afghanistan was in race of top 4. So the cricket played by Netherlands also, like they beat good teams twice.
Yes.
And these teams, those are like less competitive as per history, now coming up. For example, Afghanistan was a good T20 side. Now they've proved that they are improving and they are good one-day side. Maybe test matches also, they can be a good threat to all the teams. So which is a good global setup for world cricket, because generally 2-3 teams they play, we know before the tournament they are in the semi-final, but now these teams, especially Afghanistan coming up, and more uncertain setup, which is very interesting, and there is a beauty of this game.
Absolutely, the beauty of this game, the game of glorious uncertainties. David Brooks, this is a question no Indian wants to answer or could answer in today's somber mood, but I'll ask you. Now for the next World Cup, do you think we need to look beyond? Who do you think will be playing in the World Cup? The last question before we wrap up this thing, and thank all of our producers, people, my staff, my crew, and the fantastic team of NewsX. But before that, what's your expert opinion? Do you think those two lords will be there at the 50 over ODI?
Oh, you're asking me to look in that crystal ball. I can see Virat Kohli still involved in the setup. At 35, he looks fitter than ever.
Right.
And I think he's kind of redefining what it is to get a bit older and still play. When you're that fit and you can run from long off to long on after you've just scored a century without complaining, and you run between the wickets like a terrier, then I wouldn't put it past Virat Kohli to still be playing in 4 years' time and to put in place a record that will never be surpassed. And he will be regarded in the future, and we will all reflect on the fact that we've been privileged to be watching him in his era. He will be looked back on as the greatest batsman to play the game. And I've seen Brian Lara. He didn't have the consistency of Kohli, didn't have the tenacity of Kohli. So, on his day, he was a wonderful player.
Well,
and I'm sure our West Indian viewers, Rodder in Jamaica, I know is watching us. He will forgive me
David.
for saying that the past is the great Brian Lara.
All right. On that note, that Kohli would still be playing, I think that's a very positive note to hear on. Also, Neil,
Dravid, let me just add something, Sunil.
Yeah.
Rahul Dravid, I think, will have moved on in 4 years' time. I would like to see him as the next head of the BCCI to replace Sourav Ganguly. Get Dravid in there. He's much more thoughtful. He has a much bigger vision for the game. Look at his speeches.
Well, now,
look at his writings.
Well, now David is asking for a Christmas tree wish list. Well, we're not getting into that right now, but thank you very much all. It's been a great honor, pleasure, and work of passion that we put together this thing. I thank all my team out there, the guests from all across the world joining us at VRs. We've even had cases where 3 in the morning David has got up to be live with us, other players, all the other journalists, all the experts. I thank you all for this fantastic occasion, and certainly Tasneem Granger, who's been with us for 45 days, leaving alone her family behind with a 13-month-old son at Bulawayo, but she's headed back. We're all headed back to our work, but this has been a one heck of a memorable time. Thank you very much. This is a passionate presentation on cricket from cricket fans.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.